13. Yeah, here we go. I don't start it properly, then we all get in trouble. Welcome back. Good post Yom Kippur, pre Chag Sameach, all kinds of good stuff. There was literally there was one thing that you couldn't say on Yom Kippur. You could have said, Shabbat Shalom. You could have said Good Yom Tov. You could have said Shalom. The thing is Gemar Chatzima Tova. You could have said Chag Sameach after Yom Kippur. You could have said Shavua Tov just after Yom Kippur. I was, however, wished Chag Sameach by at least 3 or 4 people. So, that's the only thing, the entire panoply of Jewish stuff.
But you can't say it.
It's not a Chag. I suppose Chag Sameach for Sukkot. I suppose 3-4 days ahead. Okay. We are on page Kuf Tzadi Chet. We are doing Midrash 13.6. And I think Daniela Greiber is joining us. That's nice. Hi, Daniela. Good.
13.6.
13.6, yes. Kuf Tzadi Chet. And this is one of the ones where I'm just thoroughly unimpressed with the Midrash until I'm like, they pull it out the bag. What we have been looking at is the importance of rain and the fantastic nature of rain and how powerful rain is. Gerald, do you want to lead us on?
Even in the new year, thank you very much. I will
what about you, Brian?
Luxuriate.
I leave it to the experts.
Really? Hi, Jane. Welcome.
Just in time.
Just in time. Okay, I suppose I'll do it then. So, Rabbi Chia bar Abba, and there are some there. Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Ushkula Keneged Tchiat Hametim. So we're talking about rain and how important it is. And Rabbi Chia bar Abba says that it is shakul, right? So shekel, we usually would think of that as a coin, but it's literally a weight. Of course, that's not unusual for those of us who kind of, deal in pounds. Like it's a money was always a weight, but no longer. But that you can shakul, you can balance up rain against keneged tchiat hametim, against reawakening the dead. So when we were talking about how difficult it was for God to pull off rain, it was as tough for God to do and as beyond human capacity as the ultimate demonstration of God's power, which is tchiat hametim.
Raising the dead.
Raising the dead, yeah. Rabbi Abba, reviving, making live the dead. Rabbi Abba, we're going to spend a bit of time in this, by the way, so we'll get a chance for a proper chat. Rabbi Abba u Rabbi Chia b'shem Rabbi Abba, Omru af chachamim kav'u oto b'tchiat hametim. So aware with the rabbis that rain and revival of the dead are somehow linked that they kavu oto, they made it keva, they made it fixed in tchiat hametim. Anyone want to guess what that means? Kuf Tzadi Chet. You're number 6. Here. They made it keva in tchiat hametim. So the fixing of this that we're referring to is the fixing of liturgy, specifically the fixing of the Amidah. So it used to be, and there's a sort of a classic Rambam on this. It used to be that people would just kind of wander around, and at a general point in the day they would stop and go, "Oh God, you are truly extraordinary. Please, can I have a new bicycle? I think you're great. Thanks. See you later." And the rabbis, after the destruction of the temple, were a bit nervous about this, so they kivu tefillah, right? They fixed prayer, and you have this whole idea of keva and kavanah, of fixedness of Jewish ritual stuff, as opposed to the sort of the personal, intentional, private, more spiritual side, that are perhaps slightly in tension, certainly on a day like today. But here we get that the rabbis are fixing the prayer in tchiat hametim, and what do you know? We could not be more perfectly adjusted for where we are in the calendar. I suppose we could be next week, but I'm still quite impressed. So now you know that this is talking about the Amidah. What's this talking about?
the prayer for, the reference to rain, God making rain at the same time, just before.
Right. So in the Amidah, right? So the second prayer of the Amidah, Ata Gibor, so you are very powerful. So so let's put all the powerful stuff in there. It's called Gevurah. The prayer is known as the prayer of God's power. Ata Gibor le'olam Adonai Machai Meitim, Machaye Meitim, Ata Rab Lahoshia. And then in the rainy season we say, Morid,
Again.
Moshiv Haruach or Marid Hagasha, who brings the wind with the falling down of the rain, and so that the rain comes into the prayer, which is all about God's might, which begins Atagibor Le'am Donai Mechaye Meitim and ends Baruch Hashem Mechaye HaMeitim. So it is the prayer of God's power, and the best way to talk about God's power is reawakening the dead, and
because they're both as miraculous as each other.
So what's the Amidah fixed before this midrash?
Yeah. I mean, this is so. What's happening is that the rabbis are saying that they treated one as the other, and that's why when Rabbi Abba says that's why the Chachamim put the prayer for rain into the prayer for Techiyat HaMeitim. That's why it's there. I mean. This is a little later than that, but it's still, they're walking. I mean, you read the art scroll, and the sense that you might get is that Moses done the Amidah. You read the Midrash, and the sense you get is that the Chachamim have it's just been fixed, or not just been fixed. That they are within. That they are aware of the enormous transformation in Judaism of the move from sacrificial temple-based Judaism into prayer-based religion, and that dynamic about having to get things keva is really at play. I think it's just quite an interesting thing to do. Bezo yad, uvezo yad, bezo pticha, uvezo pticha. So there is a mention of yad in the context of rain, and a mention of yad in the context of Techiyat HaMeitim, and a mention of pticha, poter, opening.
Yes, it's opening.
Yeah, and a mention of opening in the context of rain, and opening in the context of Techiyat HaMeitim. So now, we should know what's coming now. We should be expecting 4 verses, right? One which has yad in the context of rain, and yad in the context of reawakening the dead, and opening in one and opening in the other. So here we go. They open with an absolutely fabulous one. Sorry. Where do we, for something that becomes such a kind of a pivotal theological idea, so Rambam says, anybody who says that Techiyat HaMeitim isn't specified in Doraita, by which you should really mean the 5 books of Moses, anyone who says that it's not Doraita is a heretic. It's very difficult to find anything about Techiyat HaMeitim in the Torah, in Tanakh, in the entire Hebrew Bible. Where do you go? Ezekiel, them bones, them dry bones, right? So off we go to Ezekiel, and in the context of Ezekiel, this is verse 1, chapter 7.
So it's quite late, wasn't it, before it's accepted into a canon of, well, if it is accepted.
Yeah,
the
what do you call
it, of the dead,
raising of the dead, yeah,
yeah,
and exactly what it means. Even, it gets fought out again. Neil Gaiman's book, The Death of Death. I recommend and like enormously on this stuff. Hayita alai yad Hashem, says Ezekiel. The God's hand was on me. V'yotzieni b'ruach Adonai, and God took me out with the Spirit of God. V'nehicheni b'toch kiva, and God set me in the midst of this valley. V'himale atzamot, and it was full of bones. But the point is that when God takes Ezekiel out to see this kind of extraordinary resurrectioning of the dead thing, what is the key part of the anatomy which is involved in doing this? The hand, right? So it's a perfectly good guess. Uvazur yad. So we've had the yad for Techiyat HaMeitim, so now we're expecting the yad for rain. Poter et yadecha. Do we recognise that one? What?
From benching off the meals, but Oh,
No, it doesn't. Well, I suppose it does.
Ashrei, yes.
Ashrei. Good. That's its original point. But so Psalm 148. Sorry, I've miswritten that. I've just written that on my thing as Psalm 145. It's Psalm. Sorry, it is Psalm 145. Yeah. Poteach et yadecha umasbir l'chol chai ratzon. You open your hand and satisfy every living thing with what they want. Right? I mean, I quite like the word rain in that verse, please, or or something. I'm not as impressed with the yud for rain as that. By the way, there's no reason to do this. So if they're saying, well, there's a yud for this and a yud for that, I think I'm justified in wanting something just a little bit more.
If you're going to look for the specific references to justify it, you have to find something better than that.
Yes,
because that could apply to anything you want.
Yes. Well, right, but of course, what is the one thing that you want if you live in a largely agricultural, sustained, that's the big deal.
More children? I mean, you could do it with it. Lots
Camels.
of
Yes, I am not. As I was saying, I'm not struck yet by the majesty of this particular. Sorry about that. I don't know what that noise is. The moment is coming. Right, so we've done hand in hand. Uvazo pticha, back into Yechezkiel. Hine ani poteach et kivrotechem. I am going to open up their graves, says God. Actually, I'd kind of forgotten that in my mind's memory of the prophecy of Ezekiel and the dry bones. But there is indeed a pticha in the context of opening up these graves. Where are we? Have I skipped one?
No, V'zob.
I have skipped one. Sorry. V'zob pticha dvarim yiftach Adonai lecha. That God will open up for you. Well, I'd look that one up. And God will open up to thee his great treasure, the heaven, to give rain. Letet matar artsacha. Well, that's good. So we've got a proper. We've got a proper rain ding there in opening, and of course we have the idiom in the English, right? How do we talk about rains? The heavens open. Yeah. So I think opening for rain is very easy, and that's a good spot for opening with the graves. The yud bit just isn't quite as strong. Rabbi Yudan b'shem Rabbi Eliezer bar Avina Amar b'zoshira uvazoshira. Right, and you can again we've seen this a number of times before. I've talked about the kind of the sitzen leben of this. How do these midrashim get to be? They're sitting there in the in the Bet Midrash, and somebody goes, I've got Peticha and Peticha here. Is there anything we can do with that this verse in Deuteronomy and the Ezekiel opening the graves? And so, maybe Yad and Yad. I thought, well, it's not bad. I suppose we'll shove it in. Why don't we put it first? Because it looks like it doesn't stick out so much if it's the first one. And then somebody goes, hang on, wait a second, I've got Shira and Shira.
But in Resurrection of the Dead, is it only found in the prophets? It's not in the main. What do you call it?
I shouldn't have run my mouth off on that Rambam. I can't remember the verse that Rambam ends up citing to prove that Tchiyat HaMetim is in the Chumash. It's certainly tenuous. I mean, the place to look for anything like that is Louis' fantastic book, the Principles of a Jewish Faith, which goes through the 13 principles of the things you have to believe not to be a heretic. Mean. Yep. And I am just flicking through this to find a verse cited. And it's not obvious to have. I mean, I just don't. I mean, you know what? I am a heretic. I admit that. I can give you Daniel. I can give you Ezekiel. I can even show you bits of Isaiah and things like that. But I don't know where you find it in Chumash. I mean, part of it. Here we go. Well, right. You are admonished against consulting the dead in Kitetze and Deuteronomy, but that's not really it. Of course. It's wrong to say that for something to be considered Doraita, that means that it appears in the first 5 books of the Torah. I'm aware that that's a kind of a radical thing to say, but my teacher Steve Wald always used to say that, Deraita means that the rabbis consider it to be Deraita. Derabbanan means that the rabbis consider it to be Derabbanan. So there's enormous amounts of kind of arguing over that. One of the huge arguments in contemporary halakha is over homosexual affection, physical affection, where the question is, what is in homosexual physical affection, which is not anal intercourse. Anal intercourse clearly is a deraita. Is the other stuff Derabbanan or deraita? Because if it's Derabbanan, then you can do this kavod habriot, that the dignity of human beings allows you to sort of push off Derabbanan things, but it doesn't allow you to push off a deraita thing. That's a slight oversimplification. But when that was being fought out through the conservative movement, I use the word advisably. There was a huge amount of backwards and forwards on, is it deraita? Is it Derabbanan? This one says it's deraita. This one says it's Derabbanan. But it doesn't. I don't really know where you can get to, because it ends up being circular, really.
Gives the rabbi something to argue about.
Yeah,
they don't need any help. It's all right.
I mean, there are a number of things that apply to a deraita that don't apply to a derabbanan. I'm thinking around some of the things around Shabbat. What's a good example? So cooking, right, is a deraita on Shabbat. You can't directly apply heat to food to cook it. If a Jew cooks food for you on Shabbat, you can't eat it, because you can't benefit from somebody else breaking a deraita rule. You with me so far? Microwave.
But is it deraisa? Where's it in the?
Right. Very good. No verse.
Yeah.
No verse. Right. I mean, I know about gathering sticks, but it's very hard to find. Very hard. It says about Shabbat that it's a mountain of halakha hanging by a thread. But use of a microwave to warm something up doesn't actually apply heat to something, right? You and I might think that you can cook something by putting it in a saucepan on the gas, or you can cook something by putting it in a bowl and shoving it in the microwave. But the deraita category of cooking applies to something on the gas, but does not apply to something in the microwave. So if someone microwaves something for you, you can eat it on Shabbat.
Why is that?
I'm amazed.
Right.
Why would that be?
Because it hasn't been cooked on Shabbat.
But if you put something in an oven and just warmed it so it wasn't cooked, I mean...
Yeah, because you're applying
flame,
heat. You're applying heat to the food.
But
microwaves...
But you're not cooking it.
Microwaves.
I thought it was okay to warm...
Sorry, this is a different issue. You were talking about a different issue, about gently warming things up.
Right.
But the thing about a microwave is the microwave doesn't apply heat to food.
Oh. It agitates the molecules.
It agitates the molecules.
Especially on switching something
must
on.
be some heat going through.
No. There's no heat. There's no. I mean, if you were to, you could
put your hand in afterwards. There's no heat.
There's no heat in the microwave.
But there's causation.
Right. So it's derabbanan as opposed to deraita, right? You're not allowed to do it, but it's the lower category of offence than the higher category of offence of applying heat, which is what the rabbis meant when they meant cooking. So the deraita thing is cooking with heat, and then you have a derabbanan thing, which is associated with that. I mean, clearly microwave is some kind of small c cooking, but the big C cooking, which is the deraita prohibition, is the application of heat.
Are they saying? Are they defining it by a flame, a naked flame? Is that
the thing that they say is direct application of heat. So, for example,
you leave something in the sun, and it gets hot.
That's getting onto that's the whole issue of Yad Saladipo, right? You can warm stuff up on Shabbat. You can put dry food on a blech. Where are we? Shira. Right. So Rabbi Yudan b'Shem Rabbi Eliezer Baravina. Yeah, can you see where I am? Fourth line, beginning of the fifth line down. First word in the line is Avina. Amar b'zo shira v'zo shira. About this one there is the mention of shira, and about this one there is the mention of shira. B'zo shira in Isaiah. Yurananu yoshev sela. Wait till you hear this one. If you didn't like the last one, you're going to hate this one. So I've given you the verse from Isaiah 42:11. Yis'u midbar v'arav. Let the wilderness and the cities lift up their voices. Chatzrim teshev Kedar, the villages that Kedar live in. Yeranu Yoshev Sela, Rina, right? They shall take delight. The dwellers of the rock, Merosh Harim Yitzvachu. Let them shout from the top of the mountains. So here we have is Yeranu Yoshvei Sela. Let the dwellers in the rock sing. Oh, what's that place in Israel where they've got this sort of these caves that you can go around near Bet Guvrin? Bet Guvrin. Have you ever been to Bet Guvrin?
Mm.
It's fantastic. Bet Guvrin is extraordinary. It's kind of this sort of high calcium rock, and there are people who lived in these kind of troglodyte caves. They just dug into them because it was cool, and you can kind of clamber down into them and clamber around, and it's completely wonderful. And there's a whole sort of city, and you get a really good sense of it. It's really, really, really interesting. I would put money on Yoshvei Sela being people who lived in rocks, in caves, in these underground dwellings. Why? Because it's really hot outside, and actually it might be, it's more safe, it's more secure. You carve this stuff out of the rock. However,
cellar's a place, is it?
No, cellar is rock.
Well, when you say our main cellar, when you say
that's with the hay. That's with the hay. Let me do that. Let me do that again. You're running a Yoshvei Sela. Sela. I apologise for my insufficient iron.
Lot will stop.
Yes. No, Mrs. Rolashkanas. It was very funny. So my brother who lives in this kind of Haredi world in Jerusalem, he and I, occasionally have conversations about the complete Ashkenazification, Yiddishification of even biblical verses, and that sometimes when you take it, you get the emphasis on the wrong part of the word. Your yissing, your tufts, all this kind of stuff. You can actually end up taking things to places.
Emphasis, yes, the wrong emphasis.
Right, the things like the Hebrew just sort of falls apart, and things don't get laned correctly. And he gets very cross about this kind of stuff. And last time I went to visit him for Shabbos. He was like, "Okay, we're off." He said, "Where are we going?" Short walk. So we did 20 minutes to get to Shul. We must have passed 25 synagogues to get to this one place, and we get to this place, and it's an Ashkenazi guy who davens with the most clear ayin that you have ever heard, and with perfect distinction between the chet and the chaf, between the tet and the taf. And it was...
How do you distinguish between the chet and the chaf?
It's ever so slightly different. I mean, it was just like... It was just... You were in Cambridge, right? You heard Kim doing... it was like listening to... It was like listening to Kim, whatever his name is, the biblicist at Cambridge, like daven. It was just the clearest Hebrew that you could ever wish. He sort of looks at me and sort of gives this sort of smile of nachas, that he gets to live in a community where the accuracy of the Hebrew is so high. I apologise for my insufficient ayin. Here's the best example of that. What's paro? His cow.
Yeah,
Paro with an ayin is Pharaoh. Pharaoh. And it is necessary. You have to glottal that ayin. You have, if you just read any of those Exodus narratives as paro, that is a correctable mistake, because it is, it means something else. So we've got Shira and Shira, and we've got this thing. Yeah, sorry. So how do we know that there is Shira in the context of Tchiyat Meitim? Because the Yoshvei Sela are taking pleasure. Who are the Yoshvei Sela? If you go down into the commentary that we've got here, the Yoshvei Sela. Can you see where I am? I'm sort of here. Yoshvei Sela is the beginning of the line. The Yoshvei Sela Merosh Harim Yitzvachu, and Targum Yonatan says, and there's a burst of Aramaic in bold, and then I'm going to pick up the Hebrew translation of the Targum Yonatan, which is Shiru Shivchei Ya Hametim. They sing praises of praise to God. Who are they? The dead people. Kasher Yitzu Mibeit Amalim Shalahem, as they come out of their graves. Kivrotam Achutzvotam Basela. Their graves were carved out in the rocks. Okay, So it's not the people who are living underground. It's actually coffins. Mediocre, if not poor. And Uvazeh Shiran, on this one we've got a Shira, Yit Ra'u Af Yisharu. This is the verse from Tehillim. The meadows are clothed with flocks, the valleys are also covered with corn. They shout for joy, yea, they sing. Well, there's no mention of rain in that verse at all. Why are they singing? They're singing because the meadows are doing really nicely and the valleys are doing really nicely. Well, it therefore must have rained. And I guess that's probably the case. You get a nice rainfall and everybody's very happy. But I'm still not very impressed with with what's going on here midrashically. Low grade midrash. Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Ugdula Tchiyat Hametim Shetchiyat Hametim LaAdam Uvazah LaAdam Ulavahima. So Rabbi Chia says that rainfall is even more powerful, even more impressive than Tchiyat Hametim, because Tchiyat Hametim only works for human beings. Uvazah LaAdam Bahima, and rain works for humans and beasts. Tchiyat Hametim liYisrael, Uvazah liYisrael all avdei chachavim, and reawakening of the dead only works for Jews, but rain benefits both Jews and non-Jews. Ovid kochvim achad, Shalit Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. So this non-Jew comes up to Yeshua ben Karcha and says to him, I love these kinds of interactions between Jews and rabbis. They're really interesting. Amar lo, atem yesh lachem moedot, va'anu yesh lanu moedot. You have moed. Moed?
Times.
Yeah, you have sacred times. And we have sacred times. B'shasha atem smechim, ein anu smechim. When you're celebrating, we're not happy. Ub'shasha anu smechim, ein atem smechim. And when we're celebrating, you're not happy. Right? I mean, you get this sort of, I suppose, Hanukkah, Christmas will do for this, right? The Jews are jumping around singing Matzah with all the Christians, and this is the time when Jews and Christians are battling over people,
So this time, when this is, when it's Midrash, it will be Christians or...
Yeah, I mean, Christians are not, I can't, Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, I think Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha is quite early. The key date to know about Christianity and its relationship with Judaism is whether or not you're before or after Justinian converts to Christianity. Before Justinian converts to Christianity, Christianity is a persecuted minority living off scraps in the same way that Jews are. And that when the Holy Roman Empire becomes the power behind the Roman Catholic Church, it changes everything. This is clearly before that. So I think it's probably right. It's probably a bunch of... But I mean, I think everybody's got Murdoch. Everyone's got Murdoch. Everybody's got Murdoch around about the same time as well, because a lot, it's so calendrically focused, around equinoxes, around changes of the year, those kinds of things.
Could have been Romans with their idols.
Yep.
Idol worshippers.
Yep. Right. So when you're happy, we're not happy. When we're when you're happy.
Does it mean we're unhappy because you're happy?
Yeah.
We're just not celebrating when you're celebrating.
Oh, I think it's a bit stronger than that.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe.
Because when you were reading it, I just read it. When you celebrate, we don't celebrate.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, possibly. Ubishasha anu smechim amatem smechim ve'ematai anu va'atem smechim. So when are both you and us both happy? But Yeridat Geshem, Yeridat Geshamim. Right? When it's raining, we're all happy. Jews, non-Jews. It's ecumenical. We're all kumbaya. It's fantastic. And then I love this. This is when I just love the rabbis. Matam. What is the biblical verse proof that both Jews and non-Jews are happy when the rain comes down? That somebody just sort of, hears that kind of little backwards and forwards and goes, I wonder if we can do this out of the text somewhere. So what do they do? That verse that we were just looking at in Psalm 65, the meadows are clothed with flocks, the valleys are also covered with corn. They shout for joy, yea, they sing. Opens, Lavshu Charim Hadson, right? So this is the verse, Lavshu Charim Hadson. One thing I need to tell you is that there are 14 verses in Psalm 65. Yeah, so this is the last verse in Psalm 65. What's the next verse? The opening verse of Psalm 66, verse 1, is Hariu Ladunai. Lemnatzech Shir Mizmor Hariu Lelohim Kol Haaretz. They will Hariu is teruah, right? They will shout up for you, all the earth. Kohanim Levim Yisrael Ein Kativ Ela Hariu Lashem Kol Haaretz. Right? What's the verse say? They're all gonna sing to God. So we have biblically proved that who are the people who sing when the rain comes down? Kol haaretz. Few, because we thought, we're not for that biblical verse. But I mean, I just think it's a terrific get. It's as it reaches across the end of one verse, one psalm into the other. Not common, not unheard of, but just dead classy, I think. Kol haaretz. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi b'shat hamta yored behima. Umavakeshet tafkida. This is 18 plus level midrash. At the time that the rain comes down, down come the beasts, and they want to do tafkid. Do you know how do you translate tafkid?
Tapping.
Yeah, tapping. Yeah, okay. Well, here, I mean, tafkid is a task. I mean, you would say to someone, I mean, I now say this, if you ever see small children running around handing out bits of paper at the shul, like sermons and sermon fodder, I say, can I give you a tafkid? Can I give you a job to do? But when the cows come down and the rain comes down, the cows want to do their tafkid. They want to do the thing for which the cows are there for, which here is procreation. Matam, how do I know this? Because the verse goes on to say, Lav shu charim hatson. The rams lavesh levusha is clothed, right? The rams clothe the sheep. What does the lambs clothe the sheep mean? Lav shu dichraya ana. The rams clothe the sheep. That's just basically just translated it into Aramaic, and that's in tidied up language. It's lashon naki. It's a euphemistic way of referring to the thing that we can't really talk about, which is, Gerald said, tapping. It's a good word. I don't think it's a word I've used before.
Is that just found here or anywhere else?
What, lavash?
The
Lavash meaning
clothes, the sheep.
Yeah, I think it's only here. I'm not fully sure. I mean, there are.
Since here it's a more refined expression.
Yes. Yeah, lashon naki. Lashon naki is clean language, which is actually quite a nice idiom. I mean, there are a huge number of euphemisms, and sometimes it does get exceedingly complicated to work out what's going on because you're in the depths of so many euphemisms. But that one's not too difficult. I'm just realising. So I started this when I was at doing my masters. I think I probably mentioned, and I've still got my old contents, my old notes from when I was doing this. I wrote in here "Who our Mrs." God bless Frankie Howard.
Somebody written a book of all the euphemisms and what they mean.
I'm not aware of that book.
It's an opening for you, right?
PhD, not a PhD.
Well, I tell you what has been written on. The other thing that gets enormous euphemistic treatment is Nida.
What?
Nida. And Masechet Nida, the tractate on Nida, is full of discussions as to exactly what blood is and what blood isn't. It isn't the blood of Nida, because there are different kinds of blood. And when the rabbis start trying to explain where the blood's coming from, it gets spectacularly difficult. A lot of the imagery that they use is around the analogy of a house. You've got the cellar and the stairwell and the upper rooms and the lower rooms, and there is a terrific book written by Charlotte von Robert on that, and she's very, very good on that kind of stuff.
I've often wondered how they distinguish the different things, because often you see references to if there's a wife is slandered, the parents bring out the sheet and they display that, and you think, well, how can that be? It could be anything. You wouldn't know.
It's a whole. I don't know. I'll tell another story about my brother. I was like, we usually speak on Friday, and he said, I can't speak. I'm watching Rabbi so and so doing Badika. I was like, all right, okay. Oh, maybe he said, sorry. Oh, he said, no, I can't talk now. I'm just off to go and watch Rabbi so and so doing Badika. I was like, fine. I was like, doing Badika. I have no idea what this is. And I kind of pinged it off to a couple of people in America because they had 5 more hours to go before Shabbos. I said, Badika? I said, no idea, Badika. And basically, he was in the room watching this rabbi as he is presented with cloths. People come to him with these cloths and they say, is this nida? Am I a nida? Am I not a nida? This, that, the other. And it's, it's part of learning halacha l'maaseh for nida. Not something that we'd spend very much time on at all at JCS. All right.
How would they do it? I mean, just by observation. I don't. Anyway, perhaps we don't need to go into it.
Yeah. Adam ein la'avodet adama is but Adam ein la'avodet adama. So that's the biblical verse, right? There was no Adam to work the earth. That's why nothing was growing on it. But Adam ein la'avid et adama. There was no person to cause to work. Sorry, the brios, the creation. So human beings work the land, and that brings the animals to kind of bear. This is all, I don't know, quite not wild about this. Lahabid et briot la Kodesh Baruch Hu brings all these beasts to worship God. So it is like Eliyahu ukachoni hamargel. So we're talking about rain. Sorry, I'm just reading this wrong. Sorry, ein lahabid et briot. So la Kodesh Baruch Hu Eliyahu ukachoni hamargel. V'adam ein la'avodat adamah. The God made the rain like Eliyahu and Choni HaMargel. Do we know the Eliyahu story? How did Eliyahu make rain? It's in his kind of fighting against the prophets of Baal. There's a sort of a rain piece. And do we know the story of Choni HaMargel? I have brought you the story of Choni HaMargel. It is one of my favourite Mishnayot. Quite a famous Mishnah. I'm aware I've printed this up with the Hebrew followed by the translation, so I don't know quite how. If you want, here, at least one of you can have one on one side. I'll tell you what. Why don't Brian, you go on one side and Jen, you go on the other, and Gerald, you can have both the Hebrew and the English. So Mishnah Ta'anit is the Mishnah about fasting, and the classic fast is a fast if you don't have rain. And basically the Mishnah tells you how, so you start praying for rain, obviously, kind of ke'ilu now, and the question is, how far do you have to, what do you do at various points if the rain doesn't come? That's basically the Mishnah. But towards the end, we get we then get other fasting. So, al kol tzara shelo tavo ala tzibur mat'ri'in aleihem. For every tzoros, for every will, so that it doesn't come upon the tzibur. Actually, that's also an example of euphemistic language. When any tzoros has come on the community, but here it says, Al kol tzara shelo tavo ala tzibur. Right? Does that make sense? It's like when you say to someone you're really cross with them, you say, am I going to give...
never happened.
No. So, am I going to give you a bracha? Right? So here you go. For every tzoros that never comes onto the community is called out in a fast. Well, that doesn't make any sense. It has to be that the thing has come onto the community. Mat'ri'in aleihem. They teruah about it. So they do this big, toot on the shofar, and everybody has to fast. Chutz mirov gashamim. Apart from when there is rov gashamim, when there's too much rain. Maaseh, story. She'amru lo l'choni hamargel. Hit palel shirudu gashamim. They said to Choni the hamargel, so ma'agal, agala is a wagon, ma'agal is a circle.
Oh,
they said to Choni, here we go, we're in it, right? So they said to Choni the circle maker, hit palel shirudu gashamim. Pray so that there will come down water. Amru lahem, tzu behechnitzu l'tanarei psachim. Go and gather up the ovens of your Pesach. All right, so let's do a pause here for a second. What time of the year are we?
Spring.
Good. Are you supposed to be davening for rain in spring?
No.
No. Right, so it's not. This story is a Pesach story. It's not a now story. They've asked him to pray for rain out of its season. So he says to them, "Go out and bring in your Pesach ovens." So maybe that's now we're getting a little insight into how people used to do Pesach cleaning. You and I get in there and give it a bit of a scrub around, or back on the microwave, your bowl of water in the microwave oven. These guys, they're going out and they have a Pesach oven. Bishvil shelo yamoku, so it doesn't get soggy. That they would, I don't quite know what they're made out of. Probably some sort of wattle and daub dried bricks in the sun, something like that, right? Which would work fine for baking, but would go gloopy. Hit palal, v'lo yerduk shamim. He prayed, and the rain didn't come down. Ma'asa, what did he do? Ag uga. He circumfied a circle, v'amad b'tocho, and he stood in the midst of it. V'amar lefanav, and he said before him, Ribono shel olam, Master of the world, Banecha samu paneim alai, your children have directed their faces towards me. Shani kavein beit lefanecha, I am like a ben bayit before you. It's always my favourite way to introduce Natasha when she comes in. Natasha is a butt bias. Yeah, I mean, I remember listening to Jonathan Wittenberg do something at Belslow Square Synagogue. Jonathan walks into Belslow Square Synagogue. He's a Ben Bayit. So here Hani Hamargal is saying, I'm like a Ben Bayit for you, God, and the children of Israel have turned their face towards me. Nishbani bishmecha, I am swearing, right, by your name, Hagadol, your great name, She'eni zaz mikan, I am not going to move from this point, ad shitarchem al banecha, until you are merciful unto your children. What does he want? Rain. Right, so he's drawn this circle, he's got inside the circle, and he has taken an oath on God's name. He's not going to move from there until the rain comes. What's the problem with not making the rain come? What does God cause to happen if he doesn't make the rain come?
Wind blow.
An invalid
vow.
Yeah, vow.
Right? Honi is pushing God around. Right? Not a great idea. Do you remember Elijah pushes God around in the Prophets of Baal story? And God's not really happy with that. But God does come through for his peeps. Because although God's not happy to be pushed around, he doesn't want to show up his peeps, right? So what happens? Hitchilu geshamim menatfim. The rain menatfim. Right? The root there is the important, and the nun slightly disappears. So you've got tet and fe. The rain started to drip down. Amar. What did Choni say? Lo chach shalti. I didn't ask for this. Elagashme beruchot shichin u'ma'orot. I asked for rain, spirit and fullness and niceness, or full-onness. I can't quite translate any of that. It's the same word, basically. Proper rain, proper rain. Hinchil yered b'za'af. It started coming down in anger. Amar, and he goes back to God. Lo chach shalti. That's not what I wanted. Elagash me ratzon, the wished for rain. Bracha dava, blessing, and dava is something you do from delight. Yerdu katiknan, it came down as tikkund, as fixed, came down properly. Adshit say Yisrael Yerushalayim lahar bayit v'pnei geshamim, until Israel had to go from Jerusalem up onto the Temple Mount because there was so much rain. Do you remember how we got into this whole story? That you can call a fast for anything other than too much rain. So this is basically the introduction to a story about there being too much rain.
It's a bit like the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
It is exactly the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Yes. And so many other stories, right? I mean, the story of the neophyte and of the person who has that kind of spiritual thing. untamed, and therefore slightly dangerous, and annoys the religious establishment greatly because they don't behave properly, but they've got something. Perhaps you can even read a Jesus story in that kind of a way. You can read a Baal Shem Tov story in that kind of a way. Lots of these kinds of stories, and they're just a couple of Jewish ideas that come immediately to mind.
It's the rebel who lights upon a profound truth, and you don't know what to do with it.
Kind of person who just deeply, makes you feel uneasy. Ba'ova Amrulo, and everybody came back to him. And there's like, Honi, Geshem shehit palalta aleihem shiradu, kachit palel sheyelchu lehem. Right, you prayed that the rain would come. Can you pray that the rain will go away now, please? Amar lehen, tsuru im nimchat even hatuim. Why don't you quickly go and see if the wells are full? Right, so now we're again, where are we in the year? We're at the beginning of spring. We're just after Pesach, right? They've just finished Pesach. And what do you want in terms of rainfall at this time? That your cisterns are full. If your cisterns are full, you're going to make it through the summer. Why have they asked Chani to pray for rain at the end of Pesach anyway? Because they didn't get enough rain in the rainy season, and they don't want to go into the summer light. Shalach lo Shimon ben. Right, Shalach lo Shimon ben Shetach. Shimon ben Shetach. Shimon ben Shetach is the formalist, right? He is the person who is in charge of making sure that everything runs properly. The kind of person for whom a Choni character is a complete pain in the He is one of the Rishon LeZion. He's the one of these kind of important figures. Reish Galuta. Il malay Choni ata. If you weren't Choni, right? If you were not il Grzani alecha nidui. I would put a gezer, I suppose it's a good Yom Kippur word, I would put a decree on you of nidui, of exile. Why? Because you don't push God around. Aval, ma'aseh lecha, what can I do about you? She'ata mitchateh lifnei ha'makom, v'oseh lecha ratzoncha kaven. Because you angle yourself before Hamakom. Oh, when I was saying that they call God Hamakom in the Talmud? Mm-hmm. Here it is, right? You place it before the place or before God, and He does whatever you want Him to. Like a ben, shehu mitchate al aviv, like a child who tries to get something out of their parent. V'oseh lo ratzano. Of course, the parent does exactly what they want. Valech katuv amar. And about you does this verse say, Yismach avicha ve'imecha v'tagel yoladotecha. Your mother and father are happy with you and take delight in your birth.
So don't mess with him.
Yeah, Choni, interesting guy, right? So the point about Choni is that Choni and Elijah are people who are capable of using their close relationship with God to kind of mess the elements around.
There's an interesting juxtaposition of asking God for things, and this sort of, I don't know what to call it, sort of the occult, the sort of standing within a circle sort of stuff.
Yeah, I won the theology prize at JTS one year for a theology of magic. I can send you the piece if you're interested. It's completely fascinating. What I sort of did is take a sort of survey of acceptable magic within Judaism. You can see that this is edgy. You can see that they don't like it, but they can't reject it. And actually, when you've then got these sort of miracle workers working around, they need to make sure that the rabbis are also capable of doing miracles, because otherwise it looks like, the Jesus has got power that the rabbis don't. So they're not happy to leave that kind of stuff around. So you get a lot of these kind of Jesus type miracles in the names of certain rabbis, Hanina ben Dosa and a couple of other people. Golems, people making calves out of nothing. There's a whole thing about whether or not it's really magic or it's just, for want of a better term, smoke and mirrors. There's this guy who makes a field full of cucumbers, and then he says something, and they all disappear. And they're like, was that real magic, or was that just smoke and smoke and mirror stuff? So tricks are allowed, and the other thing is, I think that you are allowed to do stuff if you are unequivocally monotheistic and Jewish in how you you mess around with the fabric of the universe. So you're like, if you start kind of saying, oh, you know, I need a magic piece of assistance to help my terrible if you don't have, if you do that in the name of, you know, Muhammad and Jesus and Buddha and Juno and Zeus and everybody else, that's clearly wrong. But you can kind of do that in the name of God, or if you are acting in a monotheistic way. I think magic's really interesting.
Not a bit ambivalent here, because there's something about the what do you like when you have a medium, you can do that as long as you
yeah,
as long as you're not paying God.
Right? You should burn. I mean, you shall not let a witch, a magician survive. So you get a lot of that, but then you just get this sort of. I mean, stuff that was. I don't know how much of the stuff that you saw in the Geniza. You know, there is an enormous amount of amulets and hocusy pocusy stuff, and this stuff, right? The core rabbinic stuff, the Talmud, and even in the Midrash, is already one step removed from the more normal way that Jews were behaving, which I'm sure was very magic influenced. What we're seeing here is something which has already been through one level of depurification. I mean, I can imagine who Choni was. I mean, I have a kind of sense, wandering around, eyes, he's sort of intoxicated with life, and kind of drawing circles, standing in them, kind of, holding forth in various kind of ways. When they ask him to make it rain because the system's a bit low, in he goes, and wallop, down comes all this rain. And, everybody's like, Choni, Choni, Choni. And, Shimon ben Shetach is, hang on, wait. Like, we're not going down the magic thing. We don't do that Abraham thing. We do the study of Torah.
There's a tension between the very concept of prayer and magic. Because if you predicate that you can actually affect the outcome by your prayer, that is edging onto the edge of magic currents.
I completely agree.
The answer that's normally given, I suppose, is that prayer doesn't always work, which proves it isn't magic. If you claim it always works, that's magic. But if it doesn't always work, sometimes the answer is no to your prayer.
I think Brian,
then we find the idea of spirits as well. I mean,
everything.
I
think, Brian, your word is absolutely right. It is ambivalent in that technical sense of the term. Some, pulls in both directions. Should we just polish off this next little short one? Ki Elohim te Hashem Elohim al haaretz va'adam ein is the same verse. Ilulei Adam ein brit kurucha la'aretz lahamtea aleha. If there wasn't a human being, there wouldn't have been a contract to make the world and so the rain could fall on it. Shne'emar lahamtea al eretz lo ish midver lo adam bo. And that's the verse from Job. To cause it to rain on land where no man is, on the wilderness wherein there is no man. So just again, God's power to be able to pull off basically whatever God wants to do. The next one is big and long and juicy, and maybe we will go for it next week. Chag Sameach, have a great Sukkot. Thank you, lovely to see you, and see you next week.
Thank you.
next week.
Just before Shemini Atzeret.